Thanks for joining us for the final episode of Registering as a BAS Agent. I'm Kelvin Deere, Director of Australian Bookkeepers Association. And in the final episode of the three-part series, which is for bookkeepers or accounting and finance professionals who are thinking about making bookkeeping a more permanent career, I'm joined once again by Kerry Jarius, Australian Bookkeepers Association Director also. Hi Kerry, how are you going?
Hi Kelvin, it's good to be back.
In part one of the registration, we took a bit of a look at the role of the modern bookkeeper, and then we started to focus on the general requirements of what providing a BAS service is and the need for registration. In part two, we then took a bit of a deeper dive into that registration process itself and walked through a number of steps that you need to take in order to get that BAS agent registration. So in our final episode today, we're going to be looking at what's required to maintain your registration. So thanks to Kerry Jarius for joining us again. So Kerry, we've detailed in our previous conversation what that modern world of bookkeeping looks like and taken a bit of a deeper dive in order to attain that BAS agent registration. But that's not the end of the session. So can you give us a bit of a summary of what our viewers can experience today?
Okay, so now you've achieved your registration. Last but not least, you need to maintain your registration, which is really important. Just because you've got your registration, each year you're going to have to maintain that registration. So you will need to complete the annual declaration for BAS agents. You'll also need to advise the TPB if there's any changes, including contact details, practice structure, legal or trading names, and any change of professional association. But we know that you're going to stay a member of ABA, so that won't be an issue. The other thing that you will need to do is confirm your PI insurance. Make sure that you have a certificate of currency of that, and your CPE or continuing professional education. Renew your BAS agent registration on time, and then you'll also have to pay that annual fee.
Thanks, Kerry. All right, well, let's take a bit of a deeper look into the requirements for a bookkeeper to maintain that registration. And I'd like to start with the Code of Professional Conduct. And the 2018 federal budget was just brought down a week ago, and just before we've recorded this final episode. And I guess what was interesting for me was that the budget provided for a lot of additional funding to the Tax Practitioners Board. It was around about $20 million to ensure the integrity of the taxation system. And what that really means is that the TPB is going to be scrutinising a lot harder agents that are in the system and looking to maintain those registrations. So firstly, just what is the Code of Professional Conduct for BAS agents?
Okay, the Code of Professional Conduct is a really important document that's been brought together by the regulatory body, the TPB, or the Tax Practitioner Board. It sets out the goals to regulate the personal and professional conduct of a registered BAS agent. The code sets out principles under 5 different and separate categories. So honesty and integrity, independence, confidentiality, competence, and other responsibilities that BAS agents have.
All right, terrific. Well, between us, we might have a bit of a look at what some of these code items are. So can I get you to start with maybe honesty and integrity, and then have a bit of a look at independence after that?
So with honesty and integrity, that is really important to me as a BAS agent. It's one of the crucial parts of the legislation. So you must act honestly and with integrity. That goes without saying. You must comply with the taxation laws in the conduct of your personal affairs. So that means no late lodgements in your own personal tax affairs. So as a BAS agent, you should be setting by example and making sure that all your BAS lodgements are on time, your own personal tax returns are on time. If you receive money or other property on behalf of a client, you must hold the property or other property on trust. So any payments that you receive on behalf of your clients, it is very important that you have honesty and integrity in dealing with those items. Independence. So you must act lawfully in the best interests of your client. You must have in place adequate arrangements for the management of conflicts of interest that may arise in relation to activities that you undertake in the capacity as a registered BAS agent. There's also an availability through the Australian Bookkeepers Association that if you do have a conflict with the client, you can also contact the association, and we will assist you in resolving that conflict.
Great, thanks for that. Well, I might sort of have a bit of a look at the confidentiality and competence issues. So confidentiality is an important one, obviously. So where you've got clients with very sensitive and often personal information, it's really important that you don't disclose that to any third parties without the client permission. Now, obviously, there's going to be times when you're asked to do that and have a legal obligation to do so. So that's instances where, for example, the tax office might come along and make an inquiry about a particular accounting entry that you might have recorded or looking at a BAS under some sort of an audit provision. So there will be times when you're under a legal obligation to disclose information about a client. But in other occasions where it's really just a third party seeking information about a particular person, then you really do need to make sure that you've got the client's permission to disclose that. And an example of that might simply be something like a credit application where you've been asked to complete a credit application for a client, but you really need to make sure that the client's happy for you to disclose that sort of information. So that's the confidentiality aspect. In terms of competence, again, obviously it's really important from an integrity point of view to be a competent person. And that not only includes yourself as a registered BAS agent, but obviously any staff that you're employing as well. So you've got to ensure that the BAS services that you provide or that are provided on your behalf by other staff members is provided competently. So that's one item of the code. To do that, of course, you've got to maintain your skills and your knowledge around being a BAS agent and being able to provide those relevant services to your clients. So maintenance of knowledge and skills being another code item. Of course, then you've got to take reasonable care in ascertaining your client's affairs to the extent that those affairs, obviously you're making statements to the tax office and possibly other bodies, banks, etc., on behalf of your client. So really the competence component of the code is all about making sure that any information that you provide is done so in a competent manner. And of course, the final part of that is just in terms of taking reasonable steps to ensure that any taxation laws are applied correctly in which you're dealing with the tax office on behalf of your client. And that's obviously going to be around areas of particularly around BAS services or payroll. So they're the areas of competence that you need to be mindful of. Kerry, there's probably a couple of other areas that the TPB explain, and that's under this heading of other responsibilities. Do you want to walk us through those?
Thanks, Kelvin. There's 4 other areas that you need to be aware of. You must not knowingly obstruct the proper administration of the taxation laws. You must advise your client of their rights and obligations under the tax laws that are related to the BAS services that you provide. The next one is you must maintain your professional indemnity insurance. So that means that you can't let that lapse at any time at all. You must have continuity of cover and make sure that you have a certificate of currency at all times while you're a registered BAS agent. The last one would be that you must respond to directions from the board in a timely and responsible manner. So if in the unlikely event that the TPB contacted you about something, you would need to get back to them as soon as you possibly can. Don't avoid any conflict with the board by ignoring requests that they make of you.
Terrific, thank you. Well, that pretty much covers those 14 items. So if listeners want to go a little bit more, Kerry, about the code and the detail therein, is there somewhere where they can go to find a bit more information?
So there's the TPB website, which is www.tpb.gov.au, or comes up quite readily on Google if you Google Tax Practitioners Board. And that provides an explanatory paper in relation to the code and the items, and you must be reading that as a newly registered BAS agent. And even as an existing BAS agent, every now and again it's good to update your knowledge of those things that are available on the website. Okay,
terrific. Can we turn our attention now to what I think is a really important symbol in the BAS agent community, and that's the BAS agent symbol itself. As far as when they get their registration, there's a symbol that the TPB provide them. So can you talk to us a little bit about what this symbol means?
Thanks, Kelvin. The symbol is available once you've been registered, and you'll see it there on the slide. So it's that round green symbol. Now, underneath that, it says BAS Agent, which is the type of registration that you've got. And underneath that is your actual BAS Agent registration number. So that will change with every agent. So that's your individual agent number. It's also the number that you're using when you contact the tax office, if you're using the telephone line or anything like that. It's a great marketing tool as well. I have it on my emails, I have it on my website. It also instills confidence in your clients to make sure that you are actually a registered agent. So it's a really valuable symbol, and you should be showing that proudly.
Yeah, that's right. That registration number, as Kerry points out, it's quite a valuable piece of IP that the TPB provides you. So it provides the public with confidence that you've gone through the system and the processes and are registered under a regulated system. So a very important symbol, as Kerry pointed out. It should be used probably on all your printed material, stationery, advertisements, brochures, etc. So it's not really just a rubber stamp. It's something much more than that for you to use. So continuing professional education, Kerry, is a big part of maintaining someone's registration as a BAS agent. So if we turn our attention to that topic, firstly, why is undertaking CPE so important?
Well, CPE does improve your understanding and knowledge of the skills in a particular topic or area. So you can do targeted training in things that you may want to upskill in, but you must be competent in a certain amount of continuing professional education that's met the requirements of the TPB. So it's not something that you can actually just go out and say, well, I consider this to be CPE. It must be ratified by the TPB before you can actually claim that. In addition, we spoke earlier about the Code of Professional Conduct. It's also one of the Code of Conduct items to ensure that you maintain competence as a BAS agent and undertake ongoing education.
Yeah, that's right. And does the TPB themselves, do they ever come out and physically check that someone's done all those hours of CPE that's required of them?
No, the onus is actually on the BAS agent to undertake the CPE and keep their own records as far as what CPE they have actually done. You should maintain a record and evidence of the CPE activities you've completed, including the details of the activity and the hours undertaken. So that might be just, for example, for myself, I just have a Excel spreadsheet that's on my desktop, and every time I do a webinar or some sort of thing that I consider to be a CPE, or I do some reading, I'll actually just pop it on there with the date, the time that it's taken, and who provided that education. Okay,
so let's get to the actual heart of CPE itself, because there's a couple of requirements that are important for the BAS agents to understand what's required of them. So if we firstly talk about the number of hours required to be completed and the types of activities that qualify as CPE. So what are we talking about in terms of hours first up?
Okay, for a BAS agent, the TPB stipulates that you must complete a minimum of 45 hours CPE within a standard 3-year period. So within that three-year registration period, it's 45 hours. That doesn't mean that you do 45 hours, half an hour before you put in your final registration or your renewal. You must have a minimum of 5 hours each year. So 5 hours each year, but totaling 45 hours over that 3-year period. As far as the types of activities are concerned, the board don't accredit CPE activities or prescribe particular topics for CPE. It does, however, provide some guidance which states, and I'll read what is stated on the TPB site. Any education activity related to the BAS services you provide that maintains, develops, or promotes your skills, knowledge, or attributes is considered to be a continuing professional education or CPE activity under the CPE policy. So it all boils down to you using your professional judgment as to what you consider to be relevant. So some of the things that you might find relevant would be seminars, workshops, structural conferences, tertiary courses provided by universities or TAFEs or other institutions that are registered RTOs. There is a section that says other educational activities. That's fairly broad, but it basically means that as long as it's a proper organisation that provides those educational activities. You could be doing some research or research papers that could be considered part of it. Peer review of research could be another thing that you could do. Naturally, computer and internet assisted courses that you do online, for example, webinars with the ABA or with Australian Bookkeepers Network. You can also have structured in-house training on other tax-related subjects. So you might, if you have a larger practice or if you are with a group of people, you may have some structured training that you would do. The other thing is that AB and coffee clubs you can get some CPE on those as well. So there's a number of ways that you can actually get that 45 hours over the 3 years. It's really not that difficult and it's not that big a ask. And it's really important to make sure, and it's showing that you are actually keeping up with what's happening in the industry and any updates that might happen.
Terrific. Thanks, Kerry. Yeah, so up there on the slide is all the different types of mediums that you can do to attain some sort of CPE in terms of the activities, and Kerry's just read out a few of those there. So does it mean that you can pretty much do what you like? Is there any stipulation at all in terms of the CPE activities that the board places, or is it open slather?
No, Kelvin, it's not open slather. One part of that is that only 25% of your CPE can be done by professional reading. So you must keep a record, as I said, in some sort of spreadsheet to say how much reading you've done, but that reading cannot be more than 25% of your accepted CPE requirement in that 45 hours, minimum 5 hours each year over 3 years.
Okay, thanks for that. And as you say, there's probably a whole range of mediums that bookkeepers can utilise. There's ABN coffee clubs. Much of the bookkeeper radio work that we do is also CPE valid. There's a range of seminars that are around the place, so plenty of opportunities for bookkeepers and BAS agents to attain those CPE hours. On a personal note, Kerry, can you maybe just give us a little bit of an idea of the type of training that you do with yourself and your staff in order to maintain your CPE requirements?
Thanks, Kelvin. In our office, we actually have monthly training. So we do a structured 1 hour training per month for all our staff. The other thing that you can do is you can go to ABN conference, which is great. You get 11 hours CPE if you go to the ABN conference in October. And also you've got that wonderful networking opportunity. And also your software houses, they provide the conferences. So not only are they very good for your CPE, but it really increases your network. And if you're networking with other bookkeepers, you're actually going to come across things that you may not have been aware of, particularly if you're on your own, which can actually be quite isolating, being a single bookkeeper in practice. So there's all those different things that you can do, and you can have a bit of fun along the way as well.
That's right. The ABN event in October is usually one not to be missed. There's some great networking opportunities as well as some great content to be had. So we've gone through the code of conduct items. We've had a bit of a look at CPE. Is there anything else that is required of a registered BAS agent that we should inform our listeners of when it comes to actually maintaining that very valuable licence?
Thanks, Colin. It is really important that you actually complete the annual declaration. So the annual declaration, what this does is demonstrates to the TPB that you're meeting your ongoing requirements and in everything that we've spoken about today. So you need to satisfy the code of conduct and the fit and proper person requirement, demonstrate that you're undertaking that CPE, meeting your personal tax obligations, which is also a code item. So again, you must make sure that you're putting your own BAS in time, that you don't have any outstanding tax returns, and that you are conducting yourself in a fit and proper manner as far as being not only a BAS agent but a tax-paying citizen. One thing that was not mentioned today but in an earlier episode is maintaining your professional indemnity cover. So make sure that you have your professional indemnity cover and a certificate of currency.
Yeah, so it sounds like that declaration is certainly an important document not to be missed. So how do listeners complete this declaration and when's it due?
Okay, so the TPB will send you your annual declaration. It's due for completion, and the email is usually sent out around 45 days before the due date. And one thing I would say here is don't leave that to the last minute. When you get that reminder 45 days out, I would actually recommend that you do that straight away. Don't put it in your to-do pile. As soon as you get that email, just do it straight away, because sometimes there is quite a lag in the TPB. They get very busy. Some of the annual renewals all come in together, so they actually don't have a lot of time. So get it in early to make sure that you're not going to miss those deadlines. So the due date is usually the anniversary of your registration date. And remember, this is an annual declaration, so keep your eyes open in the inbox for at least a month or two before that, and make sure it is vital that you have this done every calendar year. So if you're unsure of your registration date, then you can check the TPB website to find it. You can also log on using your registration number and password that you will have received once you've had your BAS Agent registration accepted. So once you've got that log on, you can check that at any time. You don't have to wait until you think when your registration is due. So just make sure you don't leave that to the last minute.
Yeah, really good advice. That annual declaration is vital to get into the board on time. Otherwise, it's not, you're not actually meeting your obligations. So it's a very good advice how to get that done as soon as it comes into your inbox. Well, Kerry, we're getting pretty close to finalising this episode. Maybe if you can provide us with a quick summary to finalise, so that people know what to do and how to go about it.
Okay, so in summary, you need to demonstrate that you're meeting your ongoing registration. So in front of you, you've got a checklist which you can download. So you need to check your PI cover is current and adequate, update your CPE log and check the minimum hours are met. Again, going back to the 45 hours and minimum 5 hours per year. Check you're still satisfying the fit and proper requirements. If you've had some sort of issue where you've had late lodgements of tax or anything like that, you need to make sure that you are still meeting those fit and proper requirements. The last thing is to check your personal tax affairs are in order. So make sure that you're lodging your own income tax returns on time, your activity statements are on time, your superannuation guarantee contributions for yourself and your staff are on time. So basically, if you have to enter into a payment arrangement with the tax office, make sure that you make all those payments on or before the due date so that you're not defaulting that arrangement.
All right, terrific. Well, that pretty much concludes our 3-part registering as a BAS agent journey. So our thanks, of course, to Kerry Jarius for her presentation and explanation on what is often a difficult topic to understand, and to Sonia Farrell for putting together the slides which are available for you to download on the Australian Bookkeepers Association website. So Kerry and I would like to thank all of you for joining us, and wish all of our budding BAS agents the very best of luck on their journey towards becoming a BAS agent. And of course, if you do need further assistance, then please don't hesitate to get in contact with us here at Australian Bookkeepers Association. All right, well, Kerry, thanks again for joining us, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Thanks, Kelvin, and thanks and congratulations to everybody who are newly registered BAS agents. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks very much, Kerry. See you all soon. Bye.